Hey, it's me, Stolen Valor Hat Guy, here to talk to you about DoubleTake Mirrors. I'm one of those guys that doesn't like to buy shit just for the sake of buying shit to put on my motorcycle. I want it to function. That's why I have a GS. It functions, usually most of the time. Before this bike, I had a GSA. It had the stock mirrors with their typical nut against nut tightening system. Those things came loose all of the goddamn time. I swore that I wasn't going to buy DoubleTake mirrors unless the stock ones came loose on this one. And without dropping the bike, they came loose. And in pretty inopportune times, these things would just swing around and get in the way. And then it ended up tightening them, and ended up rotating them around, tightening them in a weird spot. It was just a massive pain in the ass. I hate these fucking stock mirrors. I always have this happen. Buying DoubleTakes as soon as I get home. I finally caved and bought a set of these adventure style mirrors, the bigger ones, and I can't say that I'm super happy about them, but they do better than the stock ones, and here's why. First off, they haven't rotated loose, which mission accomplished. I mean, not in a George Bush kind of way too. It doesn't move. Also, it is possible to loosen and rotate this mirror up to a point where you can now see behind you if you look down, which is really useful if you have someone falling behind you on your off-road and you want to check on them without having to look all the way back. Now I barely fold the mirrors because I'm not some Giga Chad GS single track rider, but you may be, or you're probably riding a dual sport. I mean, can you do it while you're riding? Like, yeah, you can. It's, you know, you got to do a little bit of this and lose your focus and... Yeah, I don't know. It's really, yeah, I mean, you can see, like, it's really just not worth it. Just stop and fold it. So, I mean, you can fold your mirrors and do that. Obviously, the way I got it right now, they're kind of banging against each other, making a vibration noise. But, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of something I don't really care about. I just like it so that I can have one mirror face in a spot where I can see behind me if I'm sitting, and one where I can see if I'm standing. So then I could just change positions and, you know, not have to worry about messing with this. I've also seen people run these in some very interesting configurations, and I'm not sure what the purpose is. I usually just run them kind of like what you would see stock for most of the time, other than putting the one mirror up and one to the side. Putting a cover over your bike with these mirrors is the biggest pain in the ass because under load of the cover, they'll actually droop, and then you have to unscrew them and adjust them, or you just adjust them based on whatever tension you've got there. You can't get these mirrors tight enough to keep them from moving, and I suspect it's because the mirror mount ball, the base of it, actually deforms over time with heat exposure, and you actually have to keep clamping it down harder. Show balls. And like even cranking these things down with a tool still doesn't make it tight enough for these things not to move around. So like Aerostitch does make this solution potentially. It's a knurled aluminum ball to replace that rubbery, plasticky ball thing that DoubleTake gives you. I haven't tried them yet. I'm kind of considering buying a set just to see if they do fix the problem. But it's kind of this weird thing where like you're buying an aftermarket accessory for an aftermarket accessory, and it's like this weird hyper-capitalist wet dream that I don't really want to be a part of. I really wish DoubleTake would just send you a usable product, but that's where we're at now with these. So if you live in a shitty place like San Francisco, a lot of stuff gets stolen. These are pretty easy to steal. Now you can get something to replace these pieces here, the little like wing nut type things to tighten it down. But then you're buying more stuff on top of the thing that you bought so that like to fix the problem. Depends on what you want to do. I know you can get those things from like AliExpress. One of my friends, you know, swears by it. Anyway, assuming that these aren't loose enough where they're already moving by themselves already and you're having to constantly adjust them, and you want to go off-road and do shit and adjust these around, you're gonna have to break out a tool to do it. So I don't know, I just kind of run these as is. The shape of these mirrors is an improvement over stock. I wouldn't say that it gives you more mirror surface area, but just the shape of it is more usable than a circle is, in the sense that this section up here kind of helps you see around behind you further, or more to the side of you if you're using these on the highway. I know you're not buying DoubleTake mirrors for the highway, but the reality is if you're riding adventure bikes
you're probably going to be riding out on the highway for some extended period of time to get to said location to ride off-road. Otherwise, you'd just be on a dirt bike or a small dual sport.
One thing I've noticed about these mirrors is compared to stock, they're actually a little more vibey, and it's kind of hard to pick out who's behind you. Only really important if you're looking for a cop behind you, which you definitely aren't trying to evade. But honestly, like, I don't know, if you're riding with friends who have big auxiliary lights, especially if they have like an amber color to them, you can usually still pick them out.
The stock mirrors actually do have a sacrificial breaking point somewhere in this stock, and that's to basically save your mirror mounting point and the mirror itself, and that's a replaceable part. I have broken one in a complete total of an F650 GS. That was my first bike. But it doesn't really happen super often in my experience. However, it can. And so with the DoubleTakes, you know, in a crash, if it's on its side, you know, it just kind of does that, and then you just push it back. Whereas this doesn't have as much give. So that is a huge upside to the DoubleTakes. They cost $126? Are you fuck? All right, real talk though. One of these stockies costs $116. The full thing, you know, you're not going to be replacing the entire thing if it breaks, but just keep that in mind. So maybe for a set of these, it's not the worst, but like, it's still really expensive, and it's money I don't want to spend on a bike that I want to just run stock most of the time. You could buy the Enduro set, which is the round mirrors, similar to the stock ones I have. Those are $106, I think, from their website. Or you could just piece together, you could just buy the mirrors straight from DoubleTake, and then you could buy the knurled balls from AeroStitch, and then you can buy whatever ram mount arm you want, or even an aftermarket one, or not aftermarket, but you know what I mean, like a knockoff one rather, from AliExpress for like 10 bucks each. And then you can have yourself a whole setup for a little cheaper. So depends on how you want to do it. Personally, I was too dumb and to know that I could have done that earlier, and probably too impatient as well. Surprisingly, they're more expensive on Amazon, even though they're sold literally by DoubleTake on Amazon. So like, what in the goddamn fuck? So are they worth it? I'll give them a solid 3 out of 5 stars. I don't like the raving 5-star reviews that I see all over Amazon, but you know, they kind of do the job that I bought them for, so they do that. But they're kind of pricey, and I would love to just run stock if I could. And ultimately, I'm just making this video because there's no better Fortnite video on it already, and I'm really bad at managing my time and can't keep a stable job, so I have too much time on my hands right now. So, you know, take it that way you will. I'm gonna go home and cry about that, and yeah, have a good day. Jesus.